This replication project was completed by Brian, Christina, Candace, Rayanne, and myself. Physical activity is defined as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that require energy expenditure. It is recommended by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention that adults need at least 150 minutes or 2 hours, 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week. Walking is one aerobic activity that is done every day and can easily be tracked through the use of fitness trackers. The purpose of this study was to explore how internet-based interventions could increase physical activity in 5 adult online graduate students. In experiment 1, students received stickers as contingency management for meeting and or exceeding step goals for at least 3 out of the 5-day period. In experiment 2, the step goals were set up using the same method as experiment 1, but no stickers as contingency management were awarded for meeting or exceeding goals. Across both experiments, 3 out of 5 participants increased their step goals with determined criteria. The extent to which each participant's daily steps increased varied greatly among those 3 participants. There were several limitations that may have affected the outcomes of this study. Keywords: physical activity, Fitbit, internet-based intervention, contingency management.
Physical activity can include a wide variety of activities that are a routine part of our everyday lives, such as playing, working, exercising, recreational activities, and even active transportation. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention 2008, greater amounts of physical activity have been linked to improved health benefits that include preventing and limiting disease, increasing life expectancy, decreasing depression, and overall mental well-being. And likewise, according to the World Health Organization 2011 report, a lack of physical activity, or otherwise known as physical inactivity, causes significant health risks such as cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and is the 4th leading cause of death across global populations. As mentioned before, the physical activity guidelines for healthy adults recommend at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic workouts per week, and that's by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This is basically equivalent in energy expended to a brisk walk. Also could be pushing a lawnmower, riding a bike on the level ground, or even taking a dance class. Adults who meet current physical activity recommendations often do so with activities or exercises that are simple, convenient, and inexpensive, according to Johnman et al. 2017 and Kurtai and Dallery 2013. Walking is a very common and accessible activity that can practically address all of these concerns. Lots of organizations, health organizations such as the World Health Organization, American Heart Association, and even some fitness organizations like Fitbit have recommended 10,000 steps per day as a healthy outcome for adults. And this goal roughly equates to a distance of 5 miles, which is consistent with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommendations for moderate intensity workouts in adults. Unfortunately, despite these guidelines, adults in the US take only about half of the recommended steps per day, according to an article by Bassett, Wyatt, Thompson, Peters, and Hill, 2010. Adults spend more than half of their day in sitting or sedentary positions, according to Wilmot et al. 2012. And then additionally, according to Bassett et al. 2010, when compared to other countries, adults in the United States take fewer steps and engage in less physical activity than the rest of the world. Now, with the advancement of technology in the recent years, wearable fitness trackers have become immensely popular. These devices like this one right here is like a Fitbit are significant upgrades to traditional pedometers that rely on sensors that not only determine step counts, but they can also calculate acceleration, movement type, distance traveled, and sometimes even heart rate or sleep patterns. And additionally, these devices are able to store personal fitness data on corresponding websites like www.fitbit.com to further track individual physical activity across time. These are considered internet-based interventions, and they're incredibly accessible and provide the added convenience of connecting to relevant treatment components wherever the internet is available for an individual. And internet-based interventions that include the use of pedometer or fitness tracker have been effective at increasing physical activity in adults, according to studies by Carr et al. 2008, Richardson et al. 2010, and Watson et al. 2012. Another effective means to encourage adults to participate in health programs are incentives, and this is highlighted by an article by Pope and Harvey Bernino, 2013. And contingency management is an effective strategy that allows individuals to earn desirable rewards for the completion of a targeted behavior goal. Adults are more motivated to exercise if they are rewarded monetarily as compared to simply being educated about the long-term health benefits of exercise, according to Pope and Harvey Bernino, 2013. Now, the research study that we chose to replicate was by Kurtai and Dallery, 2013, and in their study, they incorporated internet-based interventions and contingency management to increase walking in 12 sedentary adults over the age of 50. And all of the participants were given a Fitbit to track their daily steps, and each of the participants averaged less than 6,000 steps a day across baseline conditions. And the study used the changing criterion design to implement an internet-based intervention that systematically increased daily step goals across phases until each participant increased his or her daily step goal to 10,000 steps across 3 out of 5 days. And criterion step goals were set at 1,000 step increases, and participants were required to meet goals for 3 out of the 5 days to move on to the next step criterion or phase. If a participant failed to meet the goal, they would extend that current goal for another 5 days. And they actually did 2 different experiments. In experiment 1, 6 of the participants received monetary consequences in the form of a contingency management for meeting their step goals. In experiment 2, the other 6 participants did not utilize a contingency management system and received no monetary consequences for meeting their step goals. The results of both experiments showed that an internet-based intervention was effective at increasing walking in sedentary adults over 50 years of age, and that monetary consequences was slightly more effective. And more specifically, 100% of the participants in experiment 1 increased their steps according to the design criteria, while 5 out of the 6 participants did the same in experiment 2. Now, while these results of this Kurtai and Dallery 2013 study are very convincing, they are limited to a specific population of adults over 50 years of age. So further research is needed to replicate these results across different age ranges. And additionally, we found no research that focused on increasing physical activity in sedentary adults who are online graduate students. And since we're all online graduate students, we know the current lifestyle that we live, and typically we have lots of other responsibilities, which is why we're taking online graduate classes that could interfere with our ability to focus on increasing physical activity. So the purpose of this study was to replicate the research of Kurtai and Dallery 2013 and to evaluate if similar results could generalize to sedentary adults who are also online graduate students. And this study aimed to evaluate the effectiveness of an internet-based intervention to increase physical activity in online graduate students. And in experiment 1, an internet-based contingency management intervention was implemented in which students were given monetary rewards for attaining increasing daily step goals. And additionally, in experiment 2 was implemented identically to experiment 1, but with the removal of the contingency management component of the intervention. Therefore, students in experiment 2 received no monetary consequences for achieving their step goals.
Participants in setting. This was group members. All participants are, again, master level graduate students. None of the participants knew each other before the study. The participants all lived in various geographical locations within the Eastern Standard Time Zone of the United States. The research study was conducted throughout the normal activities of a participant's routine day. Data was collected over 20 days for each participant non-concurrently. Prior to the study, all participants self-reported exercising only a few times a week and were interested in increasing their individual amount of daily physical activity. All 5 participants were randomly assigned to a coin flip. The results of the coin flip identified Christina, Deanna, and Brian as the participants for experiment 1, and Candace and Rayanne as the participants for experiment 2. Since there was a number, 1 had 3 participants and experiment 2 had 2 participants. For materials, the participants were required to use a Fitbit or similar wearable fitness tracker that could calculate steps based on 3-dimensional data regarding physical activity. For example, acceleration, motion, tilt, and orientation. While models and brands of wearable fitness trackers differed, manufacturer specifications that utilize data to calculate step totals were required. The participants were also required to have a computer and internet access, allowing them to use websites.
I would like to now discuss our behavioral definition. We define physical activity as any bodily movement that elicits a response that registers as a step on a Fitbit or some similar fitness tracker device. Occurrences of physical activity could include activities such as running, elliptical machines, walking, riding a bike, or dancing. Non-examples of physical activity included swimming, showering for waterproof reasons of the fitness tracker, and sleeping. The design we chose for both experiments was changing criteria design. The intervention will be implemented utilizing gradual steps for each participant, so the changing criteria design is an ideal design for this purpose. And now I want to hand it over to Christina to discuss the data collection.
For experiment 1, participants self-reported their step total every night before midnight, the appropriate individualized data sheet found on the Research Studies Google Drive folder. At the end of each block, participants calculated how many stickers were earned and self-calculated their next step goal. Participants used the sticker calculation method that is found in the intervention section to determine how many stickers to earn. For experiment 2, participants also self-reported their step total every night before midnight on the appropriate individualized data sheet. At the end of each block, participants calculated how many stickers were earned and self-calculated their step goal. Participants in this experiment only earned stickers for submitting a daily log and did not earn any stickers for meeting goals.
For the baseline phase, all 5 participants self-recorded their steps using the baseline data collection sheet found on the Research Studies Google Drive folder. Steps were calculated in the participants' natural environment setting without any dramatic changes to daily routines or exercise. The participants put on a wearable fitness tracker first thing in the morning and removed it right before going to bed. The total number of steps each day were calculated from start to finish. The only exception to the fitness tracker wear time was participants were not required to wear it during sleep and in the water. Before beginning the experiment, the participants will be asked health history questions, and the group members recorded their steps for 5-day period to use in comparison in the control data for the intervention phase from experiment 1 and 2. For the intervention included implementing a step count assessment over a 5-day block. During these step count assessments, participants submitted their daily step counts every night before midnight to the appropriate data collection log. Additionally, participants charged their Fitbit every night while they slept to allow the device to automatically upload daily step counts to the website. This data was used for IOA purposes. During each 5-day block, participants were required to exceed a step goal during at least 3 out of the 5 days in order to move on to a next higher step goal. This contingency allowed participants to have 2 days of latency. However, no instruction was given on what to do during these extra days. If a participant failed to upload step counts for a specified day, this counted as a day in which he or she did not meet step goals. Intervention happened within the participant's own natural environment, as the goal was to increase participants' daily step count in his and her everyday life. Wearing of the fitness tracker device allowed for constant monitoring of step activity independent from current location or activity. For both experiments, all participants received a sticker for entering their daily data before midnight into the data collection sheet. Participants could earn up to 5 stickers per block for submitting daily activity data. For experiment 1, if participants met their step goal, they were rewarded with a sticker. Stickers were given for meeting a goal based on a chart that corresponded with their goal. Additionally, participants in experiment 1 also were rewarded 3 stickers meeting a goal. If participants failed to meet a goal on 3 days during a block, then no stickers were given and they remained at the current goal until it was met. For experiment 2, participants received no stickers for meeting step goals. However, they received a sticker for putting their data into the chart. The intervention was to be terminated when participants walked 10,000 steps per day on 3 days during 2 consecutive 5-day blocks. At the conclusion of the experiment, the number of stickers that were earned were equivalent to a dollar amount for an individual personal reward. For example, by the end of the experiment, a participant who had 100 stickers would reward himself or herself with $100 to spend as they would like.
I'm going to talk about Inter-Observer Agreement, IOA, and every participant uploaded a screenshot of daily steps obtained from their corresponding fitness tracker's website, for example, fitbit.com, and we uploaded that to the Research Studies Google Drive folder. And this daily screenshot was used to compare self-reported data with the actual measurements of the fitness tracker. And every participant was required to take daily IOA data on another participant throughout all phases of the experiment and report data on a separate data sheet. So each participant measured IOA 100% of the time during each phase. And we used total count to calculate IOA, and IOA data for all participants was 100% across all phases for both experiments. And treatment integrity, at the completion of a 5-day block, each participant was also responsible for checking treatment fidelity for another participant. So the observer verified that the correct amount of stickers were applied for each day block and that the goal setting for the next block was indeed accurate. So every participant was required to take treatment integrity data on another participant throughout all phases of the experiment and report data on a separate data sheet. Treatment integrity for each participant in both experiments was at 100% across all phases.
The results that were found from our data collection in the original study that was replicated was not very similar. With this being said, it lacks generalization. There were several factors that were different in our replication compared to the original study. This could have played a factor on the results that we obtained. Differences in tracking devices, not everyone used the same device, and the reinforcement given. Instead of money given for goal met, a sticker was given symbolizing a dollar amount that you could go out and spend from your own money. Further discussion of the differences may be found in the limitations section.
The results shown in experiment 1 show that 2 out of 3 participants' steps have increased. The results of Deanna's steps never increased enough for her to achieve a new goal. She was averaging a little over 3,000 steps every 5 days. If you look at her graph, as you see here in figure 1, it shows that from baseline, it stayed about the same number of steps and never increasing. The results shown for Christiana is that her steps did increase, seen in table 10. She was reaching her goal every 5 days. The last block of data shows that she did not reach her goal steps. When you take a look at her graph for goal 3, her steps did not increase, shown in figure 2. The results for Brian showed that his steps for each block did increase. In figure 3, as you see now, he was reaching his goal every 5 days. The results shown in experiment 2 show that 1 out of 2 participants increased their steps. The results for Candace's steps never increased enough for her to achieve a new goal. However, her last block did result in achieving her goal that was placed, shown in table 12. If the experiment continued, she would get to raise the goal of her steps, but no more number of stickers would be given. The results of Rayanne's steps show that her steps were increasing and her last block, they decreased. This is shown in table 13.
From the data collected, we can conclude that the intervention 1 was the most effective intervention, as 2 out of the 3 increased their steps per day. It is unclear whether the contingency management affected the results or the number of participants in each experiment. The increased number of stickers that were given had a higher increase of steps compared to experiment 2, where not as many stickers were given out when a goal was reached. Due to mixed results in both experiments, these interventions may be effective for some individuals, not for others. For variations in participant steps and only one participant step count consistently increased can be due to a variety of things that can be read in limitations. So now I'll pass it off to Christina to read about limitations.
There were several limitations to the study. The participant pools of the study, as mentioned before, was limited to online graduate students that already had busy schedules. As a result, generalizing the data from a wide range of the population would be challenging and should be noted for future research to focus on more groups of individuals. Another point for future studies would allow for an increased time frame to collect data in order to see more results. Due to course deadlines and time frame restraints, the data collection had to end after 3 weeks of intervention. As a result, none of the participants in the study were able to achieve the terminal goal of 10,000 daily steps. Accuracy of step counting with different types of electronic devices used to factor into the study, as earlier stated. Ideally, all participants would be able to use the same model or brand of the fitness tracker. The biggest factor with accuracy in the study was that there was no way to verify if the participant was actually wearing the fitness tracker. Potentially, a participant in the study could have given their device to another individual and falsely submitted the person's steps for data collection. 2 other factors for accuracy that were addressed during the study were sick days and vacation. Sick days for a participant lowered the typical step count and resulted in a lower count for the week. Another participant was on vacation for the week of baseline data and caused them not to reach the next week goal due to higher levels of activity in the previous weeks being out of town compared to a normal schedule. Finally, the incentive for the study was to earn stickers for each week between tracking each log day, achieving the goal 3 out of 5 days each week, and advancing to a new goal. The limitation involved with incentive was there was no free items or bigger motivation at the end of the study, other than gaining stickers with the participants using their own money as a reward. This was done because researchers were not allowed to involve any additional people in the research study as a class restriction. Ideally, monetary rewards would be funded or contributed by a third party so that participants would be compensated by others. Likewise, IOA treatment fidelity should be obtained from a third party, observers, or data collectors. Due to limitations of this research project, participants took this data on other participants, which could introduce bias. Future research should include third party rewards and observers if possible to address these limitations.